I'll start over. This is the town council meeting for Virgin, Utah on Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. And we are starting at 6:02 p.m. for the Redwood Crystal. So let's do the Pledge of Allegiance and let's get into it. And to expect one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all. There's some seats up front. Okay. All right, so declaration of conflicts of interest. Does anyone on town council have a conflict of interest with anything that is on the agenda tonight?
No, I don't, but,
You should read the
conflict of interest, but when we get a chance, I'd like to remove one thing from the consent agenda.
there, right next to me after this. Okay, I don't have a conflict of interest, April, sorry, already talked to April, Misty. No. No. Okay. All right, moving on to item C, the consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we move the minutes from November 20th, 2023 and December 19th, 2023 from the consent agenda and be marked,
Item
C.
B and we move D and E.
Yeah.
Make
Just
it
remember on that.
Yeah, B and F, okay. I second the motion. All in favor? Okay, so the only thing on the consent agenda at this point is the approval of the checks and invoices for December 2023. Did you guys have a chance to look at the checks and invoices that were posted on Fairpoint for you guys to review?
I did take a look at them. I have a couple of questions. I couldn't get them. I didn't ask them because of the holiday. But I will get with Crystal later. There's just a couple of things.
Okay. All right. So anyone else have a question? Nope.
Hi, same as April. I have questions about the check register and some items that are on there.
Yeah.
In relation to seeing copies of the actual invoices. So I just need to take the time to go to the office.
Okay.
Are you, both of you, all right with approving it tonight, or did you want to hold off on one?
It's not a problem if you want to hold off.
I would prefer to hold off until I can look and see what they're paying for.
Okay. I need a motion to continue approval of the checks and invoices for December. I need somebody to make a motion to approve that. Hold it up for a month.
I'll make a motion to hold off approval of the checks and invoices for December 2023 until the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Okay. All right, Paul. So item C, we now have, no, that's item D, sorry.
Yeah,
The
approval.
new item D is approval of the minutes for November and December town council meetings.
Yes, and I moved these off just because we got two new town council members, and I assume they will probably abstain if I'm not mistaken. So instead of abstaining on the consent agenda, we'll just read the minutes. So I move for approval of the minutes from November 20th, 2023 and December 19th, 2023 meetings.
I wasn't at December 19th, but I read the minutes. So I can still,
Yes.
no, I will.
Yes. So, okay, I have reviewed the minutes and I have typed up my comments, but I have not sent them to Crystal, but I will be sending them. So I am in favor of approving the minutes, so, all in favor? Aye, and Marcy and April, you abstained?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, all right. So we're moving on to item E, open forum. So this is a limit of 2 minutes per speaker that you may talk about anything that is not on the agenda. If you have anything you would like to say or bring to the attention of the town council. Anyone for open forum? I take that as a no. Okay, moving on for council comments. So, I have quite a few comments to make, but before I do, I'll wait for last in case anyone else on the council has a comment you would like to make. Paul?
No problem.
April?
I don't have any comments at this time.
Misty? Marcy?
No comment.
Okay, so I will tell you, today I had a very full day. And this is going to be like this every single Tuesday that we have our town council meetings now. So I went to St. George for 2 meetings this morning. One had to do with the Dixie MPO, and they did approve our now being a voting member of the Dixie MPO. And I put a copy of the memorandum of agreement in everyone's file. It's right underneath the agenda. And I just put this in here so you guys could see what this, and I put a copy in your file too, Heath. You all can see what this is, how we were, included. They just added the words "and virgin" in a couple of paragraphs, and then you can see there's 5 different people that have to sign this, amendment to the Dixie MPO agreement. And, so we're considered, even though the others have not yet signed it, they consider us now a voting member of the Dixie MPO. So what I found out today at the Dixie MPO meetings, couple of things that our brand new planning commission that will be coming up in a little while are going to have to consider. And I want to let you know one thing that happened at this meeting, and I was approached by one of the county commissioners and the county, Victoria, who's one of the county attorneys. They came up and said that based on SB 28, Senate Bill 28, that is presently before the state legislature that they're going to be voting on before too long, that we need to take care of this like yesterday in our town ordinances. And this is a proposal that will let, it has to do with scenic byway, state scenic byway, which Highway 9 is a state scenic byway, I believe, or national scenic byway, one of the two. But in any event, they're recomprising the committee that sits and determines scenic byways. And now a new member has been added, and it is a member of the billboard industry. There's now going to be sitting on scenic byway committees. And one of the things that is proposed will be allowing billboards along Highway 9. And so if and they specifically talked to Springdale, Rockville, and Virgin at the meeting today and said, if you don't want Springdale, billboards on Highway 9, we need to amend our code. And I've already looked up what code it is for you planning commission members. And it's Blue 52.06 subsection E that you guys will need to take care of, like first thing. Or at least look at it. I can't tell you what to do, but you guys need to look at it. Then there was someone there from the Southern Utah Regional Trails. They're setting up standards for all the trails in Southern Utah. And they're going to be adopted, and they will need to go, I believe, into our general plan that we will be updating. And we need one representative from the town. They asked us if we would have someone who would like to be involved in determining the trail standards. If we have anybody, it doesn't have to be an elected official. It could be someone in town who would like to be on this committee. We can send someone. So they have proposed standards, and they sent it to me in an email this afternoon, and I can send it on to everyone to look at. Let's see. Oh, HB, House Bill 85 coming up is going to have, e-bike regulations that will be on the transportation portion of the general plan, so that also is something that the planning commission is gonna need to look at. So HB 85 and SB 28 that is coming up that they think will be, important for us to consider. Amending our codes to address. Last thing, there was a representative from our now representative, Celeste Malloy. She indicated that there are two projects in Washington County that they are working on. One is they are asking funding for earmarks for paving Sheep Bridge Road and to get a critical response vehicle for the sheriff's department. And the second thing is that had to do with funding, and the second is they're doing whatever they can to save our post offices and see what they can do to get our post office back. So that is what I found out all today, this morning at this meeting. So I thought I'd share that with everybody. Okay. Those are my council comments. Oh, one thing, actually, when it comes to Sheep Bridge Road, one of the things that happened at this meeting is there was an agreement to give the county from this, I told you guys last month about the money that, or last week, when we had our meeting, the money that they have, that if we were to join Dixie MPO, money that they have available for various road projects around the county, that once we're a member, a voting member, we can apply for funds. And today we were awarding $1 million worth of funds across the county, and one of them is $200,000 to the county to do surveying and realignment of Sheep Bridge Road. They'll survey Sheep Bridge Road, they're gonna get started on that this year, they got the money for it. And one of the things they're gonna be doing is trying to realign where Sheep Bridge Road gets 59 over here in Hurricane, and there's another road over here, and they want to get them face to face. And then there is a question, once they align those, whether or not there will be a traffic signal for that. So that's just, we're 59, where Sheep Bridge Road is 59, and then there's one called Gould Wash that is to the east.
Okay.
They want to reach out, they need to do it together. So they wanted some money to do that. So I just thought I would pass all of that along for everyone who's concerned about Sheep Bridge Road. That's what's going on with Sheep Bridge Road at this point in time. Okay, so if there's no other comments by the council, then we'll move on to the public hearing.
So how do we find out more about their design, what they're planning?
Well, they're hiring for somebody.
I know, but in order to keep up on. how
Oh,
the
I go
design
to
is
this,
moving
I'll be
along,
going to this meeting once a month. I'll know what's
and
going
they
on.
will
They'll report.
tell us.
Yeah. Okay, public hearing. We will make a motion to close the public meeting and go into a public hearing.
Motion to close the public meeting and then open the public hearing.
Second.
Competition there. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have a number of comments that we received some comments from people who were not able to be here today. That we've got comments on many items on the agenda, but we've got one specifically on two on annexation into Ash Creek that both oppose it. But is there anyone here tonight who would like to make a comment about annexation into Ash Creek? And I want to reiterate what I said in the newsletter article that went out to all our water accounts, that I gave you the answers to all of the questions that were asked at the public hearing that we had in November. I got answers to all those questions. I gave you guys all the answers, and I asked that at this meeting that hopefully you guys have questions or comments, that they are not repeats of what was already said. So does anyone have comments on annexation into Ash Creek that is here tonight? Lee?
I'm really,
So you can,
oh, Lee Ballard, I'm really Lee Ballard. And, I know I'm out of date on stuff, I've been out of town, I've been out of country, I've been sick and dead, and, so I wish that I had been able to get some questions answered before I made comments, because I'm probably asking questions that you've already
go
answered.
ahead with the questions and I will get answers.
I read the newsletter, and so I didn't ask any of those same questions, okay? I understand that, we're gonna have to join the sewer district at some point. My concern is that we do it before we have plentiful calculations and estimates of what all the different costs are going to be. We write would be this, but I'll read a little bit of it. In addition to the cost that will hit every one of us, existing property owners will apparently not have any control over if or when their parcel will be forced to connect and pay a connection fee. It's clearly gonna cost homeowners who have already invested large sums in proper and legal waste treatment in order to build their homes here. So it seemed fair to me that they not be forced into paying any more than absolutely necessary. The only way to reduce their burden would be to put off joining as long as is feasible.
What is that recording that we're hearing?
You guys can keep silent your phones, that would be great.
I also understand that needed rules to protect our groundwater and river would be enforced by the district for all new development. And I encourage the town to adopt those very same rules now and enforce them strictly. And take a year, 2 years to think about, calculate, estimate, get more input on this decision, which is going to be a one-way street. So, that's all I want to say, is that I don't understand why there would be any hurry. This is assuming that I haven't missed the place where Virgin was told they had to join the sewer district. But that hasn't happened, has it? Alright. Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? Ken?
Dear beginning thoughts. We believe that Virgin is considering annexation into Ash Creek Special Service District, because Virgin has allowed commercial development before we fully understand the impact and requirements for infrastructure, particularly sewer. Now it seems Virgin and its residents and landowners are being asked to help cover the costs. The problem is certainly tourism and the commercial development that follow. It is not the residents that are causing this growing pain. Both commercial and residential growth will continue, and sewer will eventually be required. We feel that strong planning, ordinances, and land use policy can effectively protect residential neighborhoods and the environment from commercial impact. Before we moved to Virgin, we lived in Bloomington Ranches in St. George. All lots were 1 acre or more, with large animal rights and septic systems, and by ordinance could not be subdivided. When commercial developers proposed a Walmart superstore and other businesses, St. George gave the residents of Bloomington Ranches the option of staying on septic or hooking up to new sewer lines serviced by a new treatment plant in Bloomington. We feel this would be the best option to Virgin residential property owners. Existing homeowners on septic should have the option of staying with existing septic systems or connecting to sewer when made available. If we are on septic, let us stay on septic as long as we want, and as long as we keep our septic systems serviced and working. Are homes on septic really less valuable than homes on sewer? Studies on home values in rural Oregon, you can Google this, septic systems versus public sewer home values, show septic is cheaper to maintain. And in the 2022 and in 2022-23, homes sold for 17% more per square foot than homes on sewer, and 30% faster. In conclusion, a sewer system will change the dynamics of existing neighborhoods in Virgin. If existing developed acre plus lots are allowed to be divided, would this kind of planning, or should we say replanning, be fair to neighboring existing homeowners in the development? Thank you.
I think I need to say what I need to say.
What's your name?
Scott Whitworth,
Scott what?
Whitworth.
Whitworth, okay?
In my opinion, we ought to stay on septic systems, keep the lot sizes bigger and not cater to the developers necessarily. We don't need smaller lots. Thank you.
All right, Cameron Stenberg. So I'll probably be the one and only person today, but I actually do support the annexation into Ash Creek. Not because I support, necessarily changing all of Virgin's ordinances and subdividing every 1 acre lot into half acre lots, because I don't support doing that. But because we need to, we do need to accommodate for businesses that are coming in. When people say that businesses won't pay for themselves, or their portion of the sewer, that's just not true. We also need to, do our part in protecting the water quality of the river. When I had an opportunity to speak with the engineers down there in the Southwest, Department of Public Health, and I asked them about the longevity of septic systems, and they said that if your septic system has been in over 20 years, it's a greater than 90% chance the system has failed, you just don't realize that it's failed. And they said even over 15 years, if you haven't done regular pumping every 3 to 5 years, during those 15 years, there's a good chance that your system has failed, you just don't realize it yet. And so I think that there's a big misconception, and that's what they said too out there, that a failed septic system, the homeowner will know when it's failed, and it's just not the case, according to them. And so I think
I'm sorry, who says the homeowners will know?
I think there's a misconception that homeowners would know if their septic system had failed, when they only really know if it's backing up into their house. But there's many other ways that it can fail, meaning that it's not properly filtering the waste. With all the aged homes in Virgin, there's a good chance that a large percentage of the homes in here, septic systems have failed, and they're just leaching contaminants into the river. And so I think joining Ash Creek's a good start to helping get those problems fixed. I don't support subdividing all of town into small less than 1 acre lots. I do support keeping much of the town open to large lots as we currently see it now, and I think it's a misconception that if we join Ash Creek, we all of a sudden have to become 1/4 acre lot community, like all the other towns. And then Ken just pointed out a shocking statistic that homes on septic go for 17% more, as I said, in home value. That when you're thinking about these statistics like this, you also have to remember that a home that's on septic is likely on a much larger lot, therefore increasing the value of the home. Whereas if you're on sewer, it's likely that you're on a smaller lot. And so the 17% increase is not, in my opinion, because you're on septic, but because you have a large lot. And that's all I have, thanks.
Thank you, Cameron. Anybody else? Earl voicemail?
And I know you said that, I read through the, newsletter, with the questions and answers that we were given. And some of the questions and concerns were not addressed because they were not asked in question form. So I went through and
We asked the best questions.
yes.
Okay.
So in regards to number 4, what is the current standby rate? That was the rate if the sewer came to your area and you didn't have to sign up yet, but you needed to hold your spot. Number 7 from the newsletter, where will the wastewater be treated? We asked where will it be stored, and they said it will be treated. So where will it be treated? And then number 13, they replied that you'd be required to connect if a main is near your home. So what constitutes near? Is it, you know what I mean?
I think it's 300 feet.
Okay. And then I combined number 14 and 24 because they were kind of related. And it was regarding specific costs to individual residents.
What number was that again?
It was 14 and 24 kind of combined
Okay.
because they were large and anyway. What is the current sewer connection fee? Because they said they wouldn't know what it would be in 6 or 7 years. So just give us a current one so we have a ballpark to work with. What is the current monthly sewer fee of a household that is connected to the sewer system? If it varies per bedroom, please specify. And does this amount include the 2024 5% increase that was just posted on their webpage? You can have a copy of this if you want,
Oh, good, that'd be great.
furiously.
Yeah, instead of writing it all down. Thank you.
And then, what is the current cost to install 50 feet of lateral lines to connect the house to a sewer main running 5 feet off center of the road? Because they said they would run the sewer 5 feet off center. So just so people have an idea. And then is this cost is the cost of the entire length solely the responsibility of the homeowner? You know, to get connected to the sewer. I mean, if you're set back 50 feet from the front of your property, that makes a huge difference compared to someone who's right up against the road and whatnot. Oh, what is the current cost of a pump that would serve a 3-bedroom house? They just said we need a pump. Would you provide a draft map of sewer lines if Virgin was seriously considering annexation to the Ag Creek? That was for number 16. Number 19, how is a decision to join Ash Creek or not a deciding factor in Virgin being affordable for the average person? They said they agreed. And then regarding developers who cannot build unless Virgin joins Ash Creek sewer SSD, whatever that stood for. Okay,
Special services.
thank you. First, isn't it the developer's responsibility to do the research and cost analysis prior to starting a project? So if they have problems getting it, why didn't they know that going into it? B, why is what appears to be poor planning on a developer's part, if the above is true, a major driving factor in the town of Virgin and its residents to join Ash Creek at this time? Oh my goodness, we're almost done. Then regarding number 20, why are businesses in town having trouble with their septic systems? Are established businesses are established businesses having septic issues? Are projects currently under development having issues? Is it cost effective for the residential homeowners of Virgin, for Virgin to join Ash Creek to solve the business problems? If so, please explain. And then just a note, if you refer to the Ash Creek Special Service District map, both White Buffalo and Woodbury projects have mapped sewer systems. They are satellite systems not connected to the bulk of the system located down the hill. So how are they planning to get the main line out to their properties? And isn't it a case of putting the cart before the horse? This might explain the interest in getting the main line installed ASAP. So kind of, I don't remember who spoke before, who said maybe wait a little bit or get some more information before we make a decision one or the other. And then that, the other, I don't remember what it was termed, but what Apple Valley uses, that might be something worth considering too at this point. I forget what that's called, where they are, body of politics. Body of politics. Thank you.
My name is Drew Sheltinga, and I have spoken to this topic before. Just to say that I thank the mayor for her meeting with the Ash Creek manager. However, there was a lot of his answers that I didn't care for very much. And I'll get to those when some of my topics here. And I have two questions. And one is, it's not clear to me, especially with some of the responses that you got, is where we really stand with Ash Creek. I'm not particularly clear on that. And the other is much the same, is where do we stand as a community in going forward with this project? This is a tiger by the tail. And it's important, and it's important that it's done right. And all these questions are really totally legitimate questions, and we have to answer them. And it seems to me that we need to start in a process, and I have some thoughts on that. One is, we need to get somebody in charge soon.
In charge of what?
In charge of taking this project forward.
Okay.
An individual. No big battles were ever won by a committee. They were run by somebody running the battle. And I have a thought on how we might approach that in just a second. The second thing that I see here is this is going to be very expensive, all aspects of it. And I think we need to go for grants like right away and exhaust every possibility for every aspect of the project. I'm not a grant expert, and I do not know how to search for them, but I know there are some out there. And we need to exhaust every opportunity we have to help us get some money to answer these questions and go forward. Second is, we really need to develop a financial plan as a part of all of it, because almost everybody's questions do relate to the cost. I mean, there's cost of construction, there's cost of bonding, there's cost of administration. Who is going to do what? I'm not clear on what Ash Creek is really going to do for us. I know they're going to do a lot, but I didn't understand where they're going to fit in with us. Are they going to build a sewer trunk line up to the town limits, and then the rest is all up to us to figure out? Kind of like we get the water from the water district, we put it in our tank, we disperse it in our town, we charge the citizens, you know. Was Ash Creek actually, what part are they gonna flood? And that gets down to what I kind of preached on a little bit last time. I know most of you know that I've got a tad bit of experience in this type of work, 36 years work. So I understand the complexities. And I really think it behooves us to look for a good, competent, experienced engineering firm who knows how to retrofit an existing community with sewer. Because it's a hell of a complex project. An example was one of the responses that you got from the manager was, well, we're just gonna put the mains down 5 foot off the center of the street. I'm sorry, that's lazy. You know, it is complex to develop a plan for a sewer system that is gonna work to the best economic benefit of the citizens. And yes, my house, I can go about 150 feet out to the street from my existing system. It's not gonna cost me much. I know I have neighbors, and most of my neighbors' septics are in the backyard. Some of those backyard septics are lower in the street. And I do have a neighbor I know who did some investigation and found there's probably somewhere around $20,000. You know, we've heard $40,000. We don't know, but we don't want anybody to really suffer extensive costs unless there's absolutely no other options. So I guess that's my pitch is, you know, I support bringing sewer to town. But my pitch is how do we go forward? Let's find a leader. I think if you found a really good engineering company who knew what they were doing. I worked for companies who did the whole project for the town, you know, and also assisted in getting the grants, the whole 9 yards. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of mapping, it's a lot of figuring out where are all the septics.
Okay,
You know, just putting the main down the middle of the street isn't the answer, you know.
okay,
So that's my pitch.
okay. Thank you, Drew.
Thanks.
Justin, did you have anything you were gonna add? Or nothing that you hadn't already said before?
Justin Christensen, I just think it's important to be aware that the city was trying to join the water pooling agreement, and as a condition to join the agreement, they would want us to join Ash Creek. So that's something that everyone needs to keep in mind is if we're gonna join the water pooling agreement, that is a stipulation from the county on that. So I think that's worth noting.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Paul Gooch. Sorry, I'm really late to the rest of the conversation, so I apologize if I add anything that's already been said. I grew up in Mona, and I remember when the developers came to town and it was decided that we had to have sewer in Mona in order for development to continue. And everybody was forced to participate, whether they had working existing septic systems or not, at great expense. In fact, they pulled an easement through my parents' property and they had no choice in the matter whatsoever, none. And the problem is it's a way to transfer the cost of development onto the people that are already here. In terms of now they have to pay to hook up and they have a monthly fee that goes with it. When they're all set and have septic systems that work, I don't want to see that happen. If you bring sewer to this town, we just put a ton of money into a septic system, a brand new one for our place, a big, huge thing. Support a hotel. Don't make me hook into a sewer system if I already put all that effort into this and it works. The other thing I would say from talking to people out in Hurricane who are within 300 feet of a trunk line and they're on their own septic and they're paying the monthly fee. for the sewers service. And when they realized it and complained, they were told, sorry, Ash Creek is their own entity to make their own rules, there's nothing you can do about it. Why would you want to contract with an entity like that? Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Yes.
We can read water on the transfer fee revenue limited.
It's small.
It's fine.
It's very low.
Very low.
We can attach it, it doesn't have to be read into the record, we can attach it to the minutes. Because all the comments are gonna be attached, all our written comments are gonna be attached.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, before you make your comment, Carol, are you still here? You didn't copy, your printed copy of your comments. Okay, Darlene.
So Darlene Pope, resident of Virgin, and I appreciate everybody's comments, both for and not supporting. To be honest, right now, I am not supporting. I feel like Mr. Gooch that it is putting development on the back of the residents. I know I would be one of those people who would be looking at $20,000 or more. My septic sits over 100 feet from the middle of the street. And I know there's a lot of people in this town who are way less well off than I am fortunate to serve. And it would be a burden to me. My main point is a question. We have talked about having a water quality report done. And nothing should move forward, in my opinion, on either Ash Creek or the Water Conservancy issue until we see where are we at with our water. And I just don't want to see our town, because I hear the residents. I understand there's compromise, I understand growth, but it always seems like the residents, their needs come last. And so I hope we don't rush into this. I hope this isn't a thing that's done next month or the next month. I don't want to rush into it. Because there are more citizens here with less resources than there are developers who should have been aware of coming in. Thank you. Anybody else? Ruth? Did you have your comments written down? No, we're looking at these now. Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, if there are no more public comment on the public hearing, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
I second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Okay, so now that, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Before we move on to the new business and resolutions, appointing our town council, our planning commissioners, I was going to have Leroy wanted to make, talk about the breakdown of expenses and income. And we saw this the other day at our work meeting, but Leroy wanted to, just make comments for the general public so that they're aware of what the report shows. So Leroy.
Audience members, I think we can talk to outside.
I just felt it was important that it was a matter of note for the public to understand where the town stands financially. Year to date, we have $532,687 in income and $410,108 in expenses for a net profit of $122,578. That is, over the budget. And I've been involved with the budget for 6 years, and we've always budgeted very conservatively. And, down at expenses, we've been a little liberal. So that we could, so we'd have things budgeted properly. And the problem we had last year when we budgeted, we had no idea, because the majority of our income comes from transit room and resort. So that's the people that come to this town, to be able to go to Zion. And so that's where our income comes. This is a little skewed because the, property tax comes in all at once, nearly. It comes in December. And we had budgeted for about 70,000 in property tax, and we collected $66,000. So you look at the total income of 532,000, and the residents are only contributing $66,000. So you can see where our income comes from. It comes from the taxes that are taxed on the people that come here to see Zion. And that's all. Is there any questions by the public comment?
Thank you, Leroy. All right. All right, so now moving on to, action items. Action item 1, approval of resolution R 2024-A, appointments of new members to the planning commission and removal of alternate. So I do have a question for Keith on this. I added, we initially had prepared for this resolution, was only going to be appointing the new members to planning commission, but I have intended to remove one of our alternates because she doesn't live here anymore. I talked to you about this a few months ago. And so I amended this resolution to include removing her, but I didn't know if it was appropriate for us to do it this way, or if we need to give her an opportunity to come in and respond.
Have you not communicated with her, or have we not confirmed that you would?
She told us she didn't.
Okay.
She was here in a planning commission meeting and told us that she didn't live in our house anymore, that she had moved.
Residency, what, there's.
It's required.
It's facto, I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to terminate her appointment, she's terminated, there's a law or stuff.
Okay,
You don't have to, then you can put it in there if you want.
okay. That's what I wanted to know. Does anyone have anything you would like to say about this, proposed resolution before we vote on it? We talked about the members. Anybody, anything to say? No? If not, then
God, just thank you, April. Yes, I think all 3 individuals are good individuals. I knew 2 of them beforehand. And April and I met with Larry today and visited with him. So it's not in the void. And he did drive us around when we were with the Capital Improvements Committee. So we had some experience with him there. So all 3 members are good members.
Anybody else? Anything to say?
I concur with that. I was getting ready to say that, and
Sorry.
Paul and I were jostling for who would say it first, but I agree that Larry seems like he's got a lot of experience and would be very helpful to the planning and zoning, and Valerie has a lot of experience, has been involved with planning and zoning before. And Darlene, I think, will be a good member for the planning and zoning. She attends all the town council meetings, very enthusiastic about joining, and I think they'll be a great asset to the community.
So Marcy, anything to say from your perspective?
I've known Val for years and I know she's got some experience on the planning commission and I think she'll do a great job. She did a great job in the past. I talked to Larry today and I think he's gonna bring a new and perspective and one that's needed by the town. And Darlene has been very involved in the community and has been a voice for individuals and represents the residents, so I think they'll all do a great job.
Okay, anything from you, Misty?
No,
Okay.
I can let it see this.
Okay, the only thing I would say on this, whenever you go to make a motion to, approve, we need to remove the dash I-star after Valerie's name. She said she is legally Valerie Wins, not Valerie Wins I-star. And then down below where it talks about removal of Angelia Glazier has section question mark of blue, that is 4.02. And I thought there was one other place where 4.02 needs to be mentioned, and I'm looking for it.
No, that's it.
Oh, no, it's under
It was somewhere else.
1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth whereas. The fifth whereas, right before the semicolon, where it says, and alternate pursuant to version, it needs to also say 4.02. So those two places need to be amended to say 4.02, and then take off the dash after Valerie's name.
And Mayor,
Yes,
my legal name is actually Lawrence, not Larry, if it matters to it.
well, okay, with a W or a U? W. Okay. Okay, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion that we accept this resolution R 2024-A with the following changes to take the hyphen out of Valerie White's name. And so there, so she's no longer
It never was.
Oh, okay, so it's just Valerie Wentz. Okay, and to add Lawrence McCray, instead of Larry, and to add the Lulu 4.02. And fifth whereas. And then at the, right before the alternate, see, paragraph.
Okay. Anybody second that motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Or does this have to be by roll?
Let's do it by roll.
Okay, all right, April,
I,
Paul,
Aye.
me, yes, Misty,
Yes.
Marcy.
Hi.
Okay, all right. So that has passed and unanimously, and we will be doing the swearing in ceremony at the end of the meeting. So you 4 people that are here for this have to sit through the whole meeting. Okay. Resolution B, 24B. This is item A2, resolution 2024-B, we're setting a meeting schedule for this coming year for the town council meetings. And so this says we will have our regularly scheduled meeting the 3rd Tuesday of each month at 6 o'clock. And the work meeting regularly at the 2nd Thursday of each month at 6 o'clock. And then attached is a calendar of meetings, and Paul had some changes that he said were not reflected on here. So what changes on the dates?
Well, what I saw was, under section 1, Chairman, I read the 3rd Tuesday and.
Yeah, okay.
And then in section 2, you have the word for the meeting, which is this.
Yeah,
Okay,
section
this
2,
okay.
stated at 4:30. And then also with section 2. And because it's the 2nd Thursday of every month, we need to add except for February, May, and August, which will be the 3rd Thursday of every month.
And is that reflected on our list of
And
dates?
then on the chart, I think the dates are correct, only one I saw that was wrong, would be May 9th, I think is May 16th, if I'm not mistaken.
For the work meeting,
Yes.
so are they're both at 6? When did you decide?
Yes, they're both at 6. Okay.
For me, I just correct. Okay.
May 9th is the second,
It's a second.
Thursday. Why did you say it should be the 16th? Because the town council meeting be on the 21st. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a gap in between.
Okay, that should be the 16th. Okay, otherwise. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R 2024B. Adopting, setting a regular meeting schedule for town council. With the amendments Paul mentioned.
There
You
you go.
want me to read these?
No.
And you want me to read them each?
No.
No?
You can say that's for amendments suggested by Paul, that's fine.
Okay,
I'll second that motion. This one is fine for, all eyes, yes? Calendar? Doesn't have to be roll call, or do you still recommend roll call?
This week, but
Okay,
it's on May.
okay, all in favor?
I,
Okay. All right, this next resolution is going to require a roll call vote because it will be an appointment. This resolution, R 2024C, is appointing Leroy Thompson as the Virgin Town Treasurer for the 6-month period from January to June. This last 6 months of this fiscal year. And we talked about this in our work meeting last week. So I don't believe we had any changes. Let me see if I had any changes when we were meeting last week. I don't think we did. Oh, Leroy did have one. He suggested that we amend the third whereas, that he continue to serve as town treasurer until such time as a successor as appointed, and that as town treasurer, he is authorized to sign checks. Because he presently signs checks as our town treasurer, but since we're reappointing him for the 6-month period, he would like that to be noticed.
that's 4 years instead of 6.
Where?
Where it says he served as the town treasurer.
Oh, it says 6, yeah,
It stays there.
yeah, I thought it was 4, and it's 6 that he said, okay. All right, then I'll make a motion on this one. I make a motion that we, approve resolution 2024-C appointing Leroy Thompson as Virgin Town Treasurer for the 6-month period of January 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024, with the following amendments. In the third whereas, the number 4 should be 6. And we add at the end of that, right before the semicolon, we add the words as town treasurer, he is authorized to sign checks.
Second.
All in, I'll do a roll call vote since we are appointing a treasurer.
It is.
All right, I will start down at this end. Marcy,
No,
Misty,
Yes.
Jean, yes. Paul,
Yes.
April.
Yes.
Okay. All right, item 4. Extension of final plat by Justin Christensen for Zion's Landing. And, we discussed this in our work meeting and everyone seemed okay with extending his, final plat. And we all have the letter here from his attorney. I had contacted Justin and had told him to please have his attorney send us a letter making a formal request for extension. Since he is running up on the time limit on his final plat and we have not yet made a decision on Ash Creek. And he's, waiting on that. That is, affects his project. And so we talked about this last week and everyone seemed in favor. Has anyone changed their mind since then? And if so, why?
I'm still in favor of accepting it.
When I read the letter, I thought the request, it is for an extension of, for to file his final plat.
Yes.
But I think he phrased it in extending, trying an extension for approving the preliminary.
Yeah, it
I
does
think that was just a mistake.
Yeah, it should
So,
be fine.
so it's actually for the final plat and related conditions. I don't agree with some of the reasons he put in there, but I do think, we should, extend, and grant his extension.
And Misty and Marcy, have you guys changed your opinion since our meeting on Thursday? No. Okay. So we are all in favor of extending the final plat on this deed. I don't know that we necessarily need a vote, or do we? We do, okay. So make a motion, please.
Motion to extend the final plat by Justin Christensen for Diamond Landing, Pockettville Road.
Second. Oh, wait. When you have to give a time limit. We talked about extending it for a year.
For the extension of 1 year. Okay, I accept the
So
amendment.
just to make clear, what's the 1 year period? So one.
It's from March, his,
The first extension expired March 21st, 2024, until March 21st, 2025.
So, yeah,
But
instead
the
of saying 1
amendment
year,
of
just.
this is a 1 year ending March 21st, 2025.
And did you say the final plat?
yes,
Yes.
okay.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
I-
Okay. Now we're on to item number 5. This is the pending legislation that has been pending since September. Limiting the number of bedrooms and occupants in short-term homes that are going to be used as short-term rentals in the short-term rental overlay subdivisions. And this limits the number of bedrooms to 5 and the number of occupants to 10. And we have in our packet, everybody had in their packet all the comments we have received from people for the different items that were on the agenda. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 comments. Four submissions for people opposing the limitations as put forth in this pending legislation. All of them are lot owners in one of the short-term rental overlay subdivisions. And so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at them. I got here early and was reading them before the meeting started. I don't know that any of you have had a chance to look at them. And Paul and I were talking a few minutes before the meeting started, and where we are ready to vote on item 5, we do not want to appear as if we are not listening and considering the comments of these people that have issued these comments. And let's see, when did they come in? Were these all today, Crystal?
No.
Oh, I see. One was Saturday, one was Sunday, Monday, and one was today. Okay. But we just got them in our packet. It's the first I've seen them. So, what do you guys want to do about this? You want to vote? You want to put it off for one more month and 1 month only to consider these comments that we received?
Personally, I think that we should vote on it, mainly because we've been putting it off since September. And I think that anyone that is, bought property there in these areas or is considering buying property should know what the ordinances will be. Some of my issues have more to do probably with the environmental impacts of having these large homes on the acreage that they are allowed, with lot sizes. We typically have one water hookup per resident, but when you're talking about having a home that can allow 20 people to stay there, and when it's a short-term rental, the water use is a lot higher. I know that these homes are not occupied possibly all the time for short-term rental, but when you do have a short-term rental, there are additional water usage because you are required to wash all of this bedding and clean the whole house every time somebody moves out, you know, for the new renter. And so I've had short-term rentals before, and I understand that you do use a lot more water for a short-term rental. And right now, I suppose the way we're set up, we would have one water hookup for that resident, and they probably use a lot more than that. So we're not really set up to accommodate those types of home sizes. And then there's another thing is the septic issue. We were talking about having to go to a sewer system because of the impact of the nitrates in our groundwater. Our ground doesn't really get to, the groundwater isn't as important because it's not drinking water, but it's still contamination in our soil. And I think these larger homes just create more of an impact, and that makes it more likely that we'll have to go to a sewer system sooner. I would actually like to see it that restrict the size of the homes so that that's actually more controllable. So I understand the distress caused by some of the people that are already in the process of building. It's unfortunate that when these short-term rental overlay zones were set up, that there weren't more restrictions placed on them in the beginning. I think the ordinance failed the people that bought those lots. So I'm ready to vote on it.
Okay. Paul, you have anything to say?
No.
Misty?
No, I think the numbers listed in this, because I was on that committee, I think the numbers are insufficient. But I think that we need to do something so that these people can be on, we're kind of putting a lot of people in limbo right now, so.
I agree, I think we should make a decision.
Okay, okay.
And word.
And who are you?
My name is Rick Richardson. With Richards Brothers Custom Homes, and I am here representing the Gardners, I think probably.
I'm sorry, representing.
The Gardners.
Oh, the gardener.
Yes, David and Stephanie. And the only thing that I wanted to kind of share is that they purchased a lot early last year. We've gone through full design work, all the engineering, septic design as at the health department now, sprinkler design and everything else. We're really essentially ready to submit their plans for a permit. And they've invested a lot of time and money, both in the lot, property, and in the design on the home they have for Science Edge. So I just, it's gonna be a very expensive decision, directed at them, essentially, based on what you guys come up with now. If I get the fact that there's reason with these things, and I think that it's important for you as a council to sort of help guide these things, but this is kind of a grandfathered problem that they put a lot of time, effort, and money into, so just felt like I needed to share it out with you guys. But we really are just ready to start to bring the plans in for a permit.
When did they start their design process?
Early March.
Okay, just wondered. Oh.
If I was, wanting to go in,
It was only 1 month. They're allowed to look at the comments that we received, that's it. There would be no more than that. But that's, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of comments.
Well, there were.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sam Ferguson. I own a lot in Observation
Estates.
Estates.
Okay,
We have gone through the same process. I mean, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars based on the assumption that we could do what we've done to this point. We've designed the house that way. We've gone through the septic design, over a year ago. We had our plans ready to go 6 to 8 months ago, but we were running into some financing issues, and we've got those underway now, and we're ready to go. We've submitted plans actually today. So I would just strongly reconsider or have you think about the impact of, I mean, this was, I mean, we went forward knowing that we've checked with the city, we've done all our due diligence before this point. We've done everything we can to, and I get that there is those concerns on impact of short-term rentals and whether that, you know, with the water issue, if that, maybe that it's solved a different way as far as through a different two hookups or some different way. But I think that needs to be looked at, you know. Thank you.
thank you. I'm going to point out yet again, and I pointed this out every time this has come up for discussion, but I'm gonna say it again. That one of my reasons for the 5-bedroom, 10-person limit is in the same chapter. This is chapter 60.02 that applies to short-term rentals. 60.04 applies to residential hosting. In residential hosting, there can be 4 units that are allowed to be rented out, and there can be a 5th that the owner lives in, since for residential hosting, the owner lives in the house. And then there's 4 additional bedrooms, and they can only have 10 people. Yet we would sit there with a short-term rental where no one lives in the house, no one's on site, yet we would allow unlimited number of bedrooms and unlimited number of people. And meanwhile, you could have someone who bought a house in a short-term rental overlay subdivision, build a house with 5 bedrooms, rent it out, not as a short-term rental, but as a residential hosting. They would be limited to 5 bedrooms and 10 people. Yet you could have someone else in the same neighborhood be allowed to have a house with unlimited bedrooms and unlimited people. It makes no sense. I'm trying to make the short-term rental section match what happens in the residential hosting section with 5 bedrooms and 10 people. You could end up with 2 homes in the same neighborhood being treated differently because one, the owner lives there, and one, the owner does not. And I find that problematic. Thank you. And so I've said this every time this has come up, that that's what this is about. Yes, Cameron.
Okay, Cameron Spenlow, thank you for taking the public comment from some of us tonight. I know you're probably tired of hearing it all, because you've heard it all before, so thank you for indulging us. I was part of the group with, there was 4 of us that were working on a proposal which we took public comment on in December, which was different than this. And what probably that proposal didn't go far enough in the limitations that it had on it based on the public comment we received. However, I think that this proposal goes too far. With the town going from no restrictions to very tight restrictions. Without a buffering process. And so what the committee that we worked, when we were working on it, we looked at doing a buffering project to buffering process to accommodate those people that were early into the game and early here and already have huge financial liabilities or obligations or whatever into their investment into their project. So I would encourage the town to look at approach more like that, obviously. To be clear, I'm not a big supporter of these huge things. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're good. That was never the intent of the short-term rental overlay zone or short-term rental within the town of Virgin when the ordinance was adopted. And I do agree with April that it fell short of obligation. Now, to be fair, this was written 5 or 6 years ago when no one was short-term. There wasn't a large number of people doing short-term rentals that were this large. There was very few of those. I also want to speak to the difference between residential hosting and the short-term rental. And I agree with the mayor that is unfair within the same community. But I think you have to realize that when this ordinance was written, there was large concerns that people who had lived in the town would end up with a short-term rental next to their house. And most people didn't want that. They wanted to keep their neighborhoods the way that they were. And so Virgin actually being proactive, when we only had 2 or 3 short-term rentals in the whole town, banned the development of a short-term rental within all of this town, except for within subdivisions that obtained this development overlay. And the commercial zones, yes. And it was allowed in the commercial type zones like highway resort zone and the commercial zone, because small homes were preferable to the hotels. Now, during that process, we did have a lot of people that did want to rent out their extra bedrooms in their house as part of a way to be able to afford the cost of living here and also just to make extra income. However, those neighborhoods are already established and we had to balance the concerns of their neighbors with the desires of the person that wanted to do the residential hosting. And so that's why there was a limit set on residential hosting, not to penalize the person that was doing the residential hosting, but to protect the neighborhoods and to protect those people that lived next to them. And so I think it's a little bit off the mark because of the history with this ordinance to say that this ordinance penalizes residential hosting in subdivision. Because it may do that, but that was a consequence of protecting existing neighborhoods, not a desire to restrict residential hosting.
Okay.
So I have one more comment, in all of these letters that were sent, there's only one letter that says how many bedrooms they're actually going to have.
Yeah.
The one that said 6 bedrooms, the other ones have no mention of how many bedrooms, I don't know if it's 10 bedrooms, 12 bedrooms, I don't, I mean, they are small hotels, that size. So, I mean, if there was a way we could allow people that started early on, but at the same time, if they're trying to build a house that has like 10 bedrooms, this seems like that's not a house. It's
Correct.
a facility for conventions.
Yes, both based on something that Cameron said, it reminded me, when I said that my limit of my issue with the 5 bedrooms and 10 people was based on the RHF, and I said that was one factor, that was not my only reason. But the other is that the plan, the expectation when this ordinance was implemented was this is an overlay on a residential zone, and that they are to comply with the elements of the underlying zone, which was a residential zone. And we were expecting the houses would be like an ordinary house that was going to be rented into town. Those bigger houses is really, that's a commercial use, that's not a residential use. And so what you have is a commercial use in a residential zone. And those become very close to being a hotel, a small hotel. And while Cameron is talking about protecting neighborhoods, and that's why they came up with the issue of the residential hosting and limiting what's in the neighborhood versus a short-term rental subdivision. Unfortunately, 3 of our 4 short-term rental overlay subdivisions are nestled right next to an existing neighborhood, and it impacts that neighborhood. And so to have these big houses next to, potentially have big houses right next to a residential zone is harmful to the neighborhood that's pre-existing, that's already there. Only one of the short-term rental subdivisions is up an upper road where there's no real neighbors around. But 3 do. Yes, Lee?
Just 2 super quick comments.
Super quick.
Super quick. These are not only residential zones that these overlays have gone into, they are single-family dwelling residential zones. I'm seeing things that nobody could possibly describe as a single-family dwelling. That's it. Plus, keep in mind, this has been pending for months and months and months.
Yes, they have.
So, yeah.
Okay. So, what do you guys want to do? It's either vote tonight, or we vote in February, but either way, we're voting yes, hold on, Bronwyn.
Brown Wallace. Okay, I just wanted to quickly add a little bit of perspective. I think this has been a huge issue, and I think there's a lot of considerations. I think everybody needs to keep in mind this ordinance is the whole issue, the whole chapter is something that was very deficient, and that planning and zoning has as the first priority as far as fixing and adjusting. I think there's a lot of room to accommodate things as we move forward. However, I think it's super important that as a town, we don't send mixed messages anymore. If it's going to come to be that we want, well, we do, we want it's not in anyone's interest to have huge, a whole town from huge rentals, which is what our ordinance allows at this point. So to limit it clearly and solidly as an expectation, so nobody gets themselves in the pinch that some of these developers are in now because of crappy ordinance, excuse me. You know, I think it's really important to make a solid decision on that. Put a limit there so that nobody gets confused anymore, and then let planning and zoning go back and make the exceptions and make things fair and make things right. So people that have already.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Okay, April, you were saying.
So is Bronwyn suggesting that we send this back to planning and zoning?
No.
Bronwyn is suggesting that we put this vote, that you vote, make a decision, so that there's a clear, you know, if it's going to be a limit, it's clear now, so that nobody else gets themselves in that pinch.
And then planning and zoning could look at it for some other issues.
It's on the agenda, okay, for the next meeting.
Okay. Oh, you've got an agenda.
I do, you don't have yet, so go there.
Okay. Okay, so. If anyone thinks we should vote, make a motion.
I think we should go. I'd like to make a motion that we take a vote on the Virgin Town Ordinance number 2023.
Is your motion that we approve it or deny it?
That we approve it. And it doesn't have a number on it.
That would be 01.
That would be
Okay,
It says 2023, should it say 2020?
Oh, yeah, it's been 24.
so with those changes,
That's because we started it in 2023.
and I think also, we need to change who would be voting on that. We
Oh,
still
it's
have
still not,
everybody.
okay.
Do we need to redo this for next month, because it's, you have no.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
That's not a material change.
Okay, I hear you.
Changing it.
Changing the names of the better. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. If there's no more discussion, then, any more discussion before we go for the? Okay. April,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Jean, I, Misty,
No, because of the reasons I stated, that I feel like these numbers are insufficient.
okay, Marcy.
Aye.
All right, so on to item number 6. This is another ordinance, addressing short-term rentals, and Paul, this was your proposal. So would you like to tell everybody, the town council members in the town, what you are proposing?
The ordinance eliminates, short-term rentals as a permitted use residential zones, rural residential zones, and agricultural zones.
And is it making it a conditional use or what?
No, it's making, it's prohibited, and making prohibited use in those zones. So it's prohibiting, it's removing permitted use from residential, royal residential and agricultural zones, and making it a prohibited use, and removing it from a permitted use in the commercial zone. But it's not permitted use as a conditional zone. I have not made it a conditional use, but I have not prohibited it either. Because of the language of housing and lodging, and it can be, you can have lodging that is short-term rental. And so we're trying, so I'm just making it.
So are you going to eliminate?
No, that's grandfathered in. The overlay districts, but that's still grandfathered in, that's not eliminated, it's grandfathered
But
in.
it has to comply with the regulations of underlying zoning, it's prohibited in underlying zoning, you have a problem.
But it's a grandfathered use. So it is complying with it as the status it went in, but they could lose their grandfather status.
Yeah, probably need a bit of clarification.
What would you like to see?
Well, I would suggest that we indicate that 60.02 be revised to say that it, notwithstanding the underlying, alternative underlying zoning except for use. Because you're prohibiting it in those zones where it is allowed by overlay.
So why would not the overlay, be an exception to?
It is, except for the term in the language of 60.02, it says it has to comply with the.
Underlying
That's what
zone?
he's saying, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
If you make it prohibited in those underlying zones, you have an issue.
so we make it conditional?
No, I think what he's saying is that we want to make sure that doesn't conflict with overlay
In my
district.
understanding, this is simply a referral to the planning commission to kind of vet the issue.
Yes.
Have a public hearing on. it.
Yes. Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all this is.
those issues. And that's why I asked what your suggestion was, so they could, since they're all sitting here, they can listen. And come up with it. No, I understand what you're saying, yeah, and that makes sense, that
So,
if we're gonna make it a grandfather use for that, we might wanna increase the money.
What is it, that is grandfather.
so you're taking it out of a permitted use, because I was asked by, I misunderstood this. I was asked by, someone in town if this was being, prohibited in the commercial zone, and I told them, no, it's being made conditional, but I see I was wrong, but it's actually not being made conditional, but we still have other lodging uses that are pushed. Okay,
Right.
because to me, short-term rentals in the commercial zone are they're a motel.
They're a
I don't see
motel.
them as a short-term. They're a motel.
And that's why I didn't make it a conditional use, because motels are already conditional uses. But obviously, the planning board can take a look at it and have the recommendations.
Yes, my personal desire, and this could be another ordinance, is I just would like to see lodging removed from commercial altogether. And just put in, removed altogether from commercial and made, back to the way it used to be where it's all in, highway resort zone. Initially, all lodging, overnight lodging was in highway resort zone and was banned from prohibited in commercial. And now we've got 5 projects right now for short-term rentals in the commercial zone. Plus with what we have with Zion White Bison and the hotel and the KOA campground and Zion Wildflower and Auto Camp. I'm like, we need retail. We need to move on to other things in the commercial zone and not, we're gonna be overwhelmed with lodging by the time we have these other 4 or 5 that are on the books.
And that was not my intention, so.
I know, what-
Yeah.
that's where you and I disagree.
Yeah, we disagree on that. I think housing done on a conditional use permit would be permissible in commercial zone. I think our problem is where we put our commercial zones, and we don't have any buffer zones in place. And I think we need to remedy those situations no longer.
Okay, so if there's any more discussion on this, before we vote and send it on to the planning. Or any comment from you, Pete?
Yeah, it's not a vote to approve the ordinance, it's
No.
a vote to refer to.
To the planning commission.
Planning commission.
That's what I was asking, any more discussion before we make motions to send it to the planning commission? If not, Paul?
I made the motion that we send ordinance 2020.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you said we send, and I thought, I was looking at resend on the next line.
No,
Okay.
that we send ordinance 2024 XX for discussion to the planning commission to return the recommendation.
I'll second that. Marty?
Aye.
Misty?
Yes.
Jean, yes. Paul? April?
Aye.
Okay. Now, we are on item number 7. This, I am going to let you guys present this poll, since this was the ordinance from you and, well, this is ordinance from you. So I'll let you present on this.
Well, this was the item that was raised at last meeting, that I requested that we hold off until the new council had a chance to weigh in, so this is a chance for the new council member to weigh in on this ordinance. And so it would be rescinding the previous zoning that was made to commercial zone.
May I have a word on this?
Sure.
Tyson Raymond.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Tyson Raymond.
Tyson Raymond.
I am from Downey Wilker Associates.
That's where I've seen your name before, okay?
Yeah. So, I represent the landowner specifically on this. It's outlined the parcel number. So I would like to say a few things, before the council takes a vote. So I believe, looking at the VULU, this is improperly before the council at this time. Section 2.30 requires anything relating to a zoning change to be sent to planning and zoning first. This ordinance,
It has set public hearing, the vote was not to approve it. It was a recommendation, but it was a top-down. It was a top-down one.
my understanding is that it was sent to the planning and zoning, came to the council, and the council approved the ordinance. So now we're talking about changing it from commercial back to residential. That requires it to go back to planning and zoning.
Oh, we're talking about the referral.
No, we voted on that. We voted on the referral of the short-term rental. We voted to,
So this is the
this is the
rescind,
decision of the zone change.
rescind the zone change.
Yeah, we moved on to that.
So I believe it's improperly before the council at this point in time. Also, Hulu to point 32 requires a 10-day notice. This only was put on the agenda within the last 24 hours. So those violations of the ordinance, I believe, prohibit the council from making a decision on this today. I could go through a number of the, I think the issues outlined in the ordinance itself. Just because there's a change of a council that's voted in, doesn't mean that an ordinance that's properly passed is automatic, that this council, then a new council gets to come in and just deem it void ab initio. That has a very specific legal term of art to it. And I believe that that is improper, given the circumstances. I also believe that the fact that there was comment made doesn't mean that it was improperly passed. There was plenty of chance for public comment, given the fact that it went through planning and zoning. Also, I think it's important for the council to recognize that this parcel traditionally was zoned commercial. And for whatever reason, it has not, nobody can produce any vote that changed it from commercial. And somehow it showed up on the map that it was changed. And so I believe the ordinance that was passed in December was actually just a confirmation of the fact that it was commercial from the get-go. So, if I had had the proper 10-day notice, I think I could outline a little bit more of the factual background. Councilmember McKeon, we would also ask you to recuse yourself because you made public comments regarding this at the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we believe that it would be appropriate for you to recuse yourself as well. We'll let that go before the council. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Way you rescind an ordinance, same way you passed it. By ordinance. The land use ordinance, it's zoning. Has to go, the land use ordinance has to first receive a recommendation from the planning commission after conducting a public hearing. Then it has to come to the council at a regularly scheduled meeting with 10 days advance of published notice. So I would agree with Ms. Raymond in that sense, that I don't know that it is properly before us. But, you know, there's some discussion. Go ahead.
At the last meeting, you said, we asked specifically if we could rescind this when the vote was to abstain and delay this, table it. The question was, would we be able to reconsider it at the next meeting in January? And your advice was yes.
Let's see what the minutes said.
My advice is that it needs to go through the same process any land use ordinance has to go through. But yes, you can rescind it. You have to.
Oh, Cameron, I'm sorry, I was trying to find the minutes from, December so I could look at them. Go ahead.
So Cameron Spindler. So I have two comments on this issue. First was, the rescinding of this ordinance would be changing the zoning map. Any change to the rezoning map by Utah code requires the public notice and the hearings and finding the zoning as outlined also. It's not only changing the zoning map with the rescinding of this be a violation of town code, it would also be a violation of state code, I believe. And then second, and this is kind of more to Paul's point about it being passed by the last commission. So I think, that would be a very valid point to be made if the rezone of this property had been rushed in any manner. However, in this occasion, this rezone was not rushed. I believe the first time, last year as the chairman of Planning and Zoning Commission, the first time I spoke with Michelle about her desire to rezone this property was in May of 2023. And so because she went through the long process of getting this done, and it was not rushed at the last minute, I think Paul's point that the new council should weigh on this is just not a valid one this time. That's what I have. Thanks.
So my name is April Gates and I represented Pete Driver in the sale of this property. And Pete had owned this property for over 20 years and it was zoned commercial when he bought it. And he cannot remember ever being notified that it had been rezoned into residential. And he only noticed that his taxes had gone down. And so he didn't fight it. The property is right next to his son, Casey Chivers, who has never ever talked against had this being done. And looking back over the ordinances, it seems to be that it was a misquote in the rewritten ordinance that these three properties were excluded from the commercial town ordinance that says, or the general code that says that the properties on SR9 shall be in a general commercial zone. That is the town code. The overlay for SR9 is commercial because it's not a great place to live. It's not a safe place to live. It's not a great place to build your house. There are safety issues there, and we've said this from the beginning. So Pete has always said that it was zoned commercial when he bought it. We have maps that show it was zoned commercial back in the day. And this is, in my opinion, just a nice effort by Michelle to try to help you fix the mistake that was made in the ordinance.
Darlene Pope.
Okay, go ahead.
So, to begin with, I do not think, Ms. Kean has a conflict of interest because I read the summary of the comments from the public hearing, which was the only thing that council had access to because the videos were not up at that time and they did not accurately reflect what was said in that meeting. Also, there have been several zone changes that were referendum. And when it became clear that they would succeed, the council, without giving 10 days notice, rescinded those ordinances. So I think it can be done. There's a precedent. The property taxes paid on the lot in question were residential. Our zoning map showed it as residential. The county recorder document showed it as residential. And now to claim that once back in the day, it was commercial it to me is a specious argument. The advertisement for this property, when it was first listed it as residential, rural residential. So I think with the precedent of recension multiple times in our referendum history, without a 10-day notice, without it going back to P and Z, it makes it clear that this can be done. Thank you.
Yes, and I have a comment to make too. Well, this is what I'm looking for, and I know the referendum law pretty well. There is a section in the referendum law, it's under the election code 20A. There is, and I was trying to find it just now, but there is a provision in the referendum process.
Yes.
That allows a land use authority to rescind an ordinance as a subject of a referendum.
But we don't have any.
No, we don't. I'm just saying that where Darlene was saying they withdrew it because of the referendum, that we have the precedence, and I'm saying the referendum law provides for a code, an ordinance to be rescinded. So it's a little nuanced there. But I was looking for that code section and I haven't found it yet, but I know it because I saw it, I was looking at the referendum code just within the past couple of weeks. So I know it's there, I saw it. So anything else you wanted to?
Kate, did you read the whereases in this ordinance? Kate?
Which ordinance?
In the rescission ordinance, specifically, because I only meant to mention one in the last meeting, but.
We changed passwords on our SharePoint, so I was trying to get, this was put into the attorney SharePoint folder and I didn't.
Because I looked at the whereases and I just wondered if you had looked at them. As the number, there's like the 5th whereas, the 9th whereas, they fixed the 10th whereas, but and like the 14th whereas, are those, I just wondered if you looked at them, because I feel like these are legalese and they shouldn't be. These shouldn't be the whereases we're using, we should have legal standing.
Sorry, you just stated your question.
Oh my goodness, hey, small, short, when you look at the whereases, I don't feel like that they could be legal standing instead of what's listed here. If we're gonna do this, I feel like we need to have a different standing other than the fact that they ran as a campaign, which I understand that's your campaign is yours, but I don't feel like that should be in our ordinance as listed as a reason for rescinding an ordinance. It needs to be legal.
Well, if we get a motion on the table in a second, you can make a motion to remove the whereases.
But we're still figuring out whether or not we need to send it to planning and zoning.
That's where we are.
I'm gonna make a motion to adopt ordinance 2024, this would be 02, which will rescind the previous zone change ordinance. And if the applicant's attorney is correct, and that the zone change was just had no effect, then this ordinance will have no effect. Because it was originally commercial, and it's something we need to figure out as to what the proper zoning was. So if they passed to rezone commercial to commercial, then this one would have no effect on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with this, because the decision last month was should we table this? Should we table this ordinance in order for the town council members to, or no, the actual decision on this was should we delay this till it was motion to amend that died for lack of a second, I believe. that we should extend the, closing date or the effective date to the 31st to give time for the new council to make, to consider this. And the vice council at that time was, yes, you could rescind this ordinance if you went ahead and proceeded with it without that motion. And so with that, I believe then there was a lack of a second. Who knows what would have happened? It might have been seconded, it might have been approved with a different effective date.
We would say at the next meeting, by the 31st of January.
The 31st of January.
He had, yes, he had proposed an amendment to the ordinance giving an effective date of January 31st at the December meeting. And it died for lack of a second.
For lack of a second.
There would have been plenty of time for it to be noticed for public hearing and planning commission and a recommendation before this meeting.
No, what you advise is that we could proceed with reconsideration or rescinding this ordinance. So now your advice is a little different, but be that as it may, if this is commercial, then it doesn't matter. If it's commercial, it doesn't matter. And what I'm gonna also suggest is that at the planning commission, whether we need to proceed with a zone change on this. A part of that's gonna also depend on whether it's commercial or not. Well, that's my motion. Yes, is there a second? I'm sorry, well, part of it was explanation for me. So my motion is I move that we approve ordinance 2024. I'll be told to rescinding the ordinance 2023-12 that had previously amended the town official zoning map by the zoning B-2-1-21-2342 from rural residential zone to commercial zone.
So Keith, because I made.
What would be the harm in referring to the planning commission for a public hearing and bring it back up to you guys next month? And then that would take away any of the property owner's procedural arguments. Because they're arguing to vote on it tonight is there's a procedural deficiency in the way we're adopting land use ordinance. Because we are amending the official zoning map of the town.
I think her question was gonna be, does she have a conflict of interest? And
Yes, I was going to ask.
and I
I did,
figured this is a legislative matter.
And frankly, April, I was not in that planning commission meeting. I don't remember. Would you tell, was your comments made, was it against the rezone or was it in favor of it?
it was against the rezone, and I did speak about the particular project and not just about the rezone. In my recollection.
Yeah, April, you're gonna have to decide whether or not that's a conflict. I would always recommend if there's a question, whether you have expressed vocally a bias that can be argued against any decision that you're gonna make on this ordinance rescinding, I would advise that you abstain, just so that it doesn't, it takes away another arrow out of their quiver of arrows in trying to contest what is being done. But that's ultimately your choice.
And that's even on all legislative matters.
Yeah,
In that case, many of the senators in the US would not be able to.
I probably have more of a conscience than they do, though.
generally I recommend if there's been an argument, if there's bias, and I have to look at, okay, is there any clear evidence of it? And if we've got recordings of a meeting and minutes of a meeting that states that King said that it should be denied, then, I think that's pretty decent evidence. So my only question is, we don't have to, it gives them better grounds to challenge this decision that you guys are talking about making right now.
Well, I'll wait until there's a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like they died for like a second.
Well, second. Okay, I was just about to move on. You got it in just a hair before I said we're moving on. So, can you repeat your, well, you repeat your motion, please?
My motion was to approve ordinance 2024-02, which is rescinding previous ordinance that we did in December.
I thought you had much more than just that.
No, I was giving my reason
Oh, you're
for making the motion.
All right.
Now the question is I know Misty may have some changes to the whereases, or somebody may also want to follow Keith and say refer this to planning commission. That can be either done in a substitute motion or amendment.
I will make a substitute motion that this goes to planning commission and that they do the public hearing and then send it back with their recommendation.
Again, yes, so this is a top-down ordinance being sent to planning commission, so it's simply a recommendation to be a recommendation to deny. Just
right.
When they generate it from the bottom up, it has to be a positive recommendation to come to you guys. This is a top-down recommendation. Yeah, that's.
Second.
So now what?
Could you vote on the substitute motion?
See, I hate Robert's rules of order. I do not, but I try never to follow.
So this supersedes my motion if it passes.
All right, so then we will vote on the substitute motion to send this to planning commission for a public hearing and then send back with their recommendation to town council. So I will start with April.
So because, we are sending it to planning and zoning,
This is on the substance of.
I don't feel that I have to recuse myself.
You don't. This isn't on the substance of.
Okay, so I'll vote yes.
Paul? Paul said no, Jean says yes, Misty?
Yes.
Marcy?
No.
Okay. So this will go back to planning commission. Yeah, it's going back to planning commission, for a public hearing, and you guys can then, give us your recommendation, and then it'll come back to us hopefully next month for a vote.
By then, we would figure out what the underlying zoning actually was.
This is time to ask them.
I'm going to advise council that if there were ordinances passed where the official zoning map was amended and it was done following the public notice process prescribed by Utah code, that it is the zone that is shown. Even if they didn't apply for it.
Yeah.
Because the city has the ability to go through and rezone areas too, but they have to go through the public hearing process, allow comment, and then they can make their decision. And that's what, my understanding is that there was an ordinance in 2013 and an ordinance in 2019 that was done. Now, I also understand that there's some question about which is the actual exhibit maps to those two ordinances.
Hold on.
We need to know what those are.
They,
To see what those maps say, and then we can, but my advice is if they say rural residential, rural residential. And if the property owner didn't know, they're deemed to be on notice. And have the opportunity to comment and provide feedback to the city. They didn't want to be. As a matter of fact, we did this not, but 3 or 4 years ago when we rezoned, we extended the highway resort zone down, further down the highway, and there were some residents who did not want to participate in that, and we agreed to leave them out. But they, yeah, well, they were on at least, they were given notice, and some of them actually took the notice and got involved in the process and responded to it. I'm sorry, this property owner didn't, my advice is gonna be, it's what the zoning map of the county is as adopted. That's gonna be the zoning. So,
The general plan shows that it's commercial.
Future land use
Future
map.
land use.
It is advisory, it is not controlling over the official land use map of the town. So it's kind of it's a map that shows what the elected officials, after getting feedback from the public, thinks our town should look like as it grows. If that makes any sense. It's not, it doesn't rezone anything, and it just says it's an advisory. How we should be looking when people are coming in for zone changes, we should evaluate against what our future land use map said. But it doesn't rezone anything, but when you adopt an amended official land use map that shows zoning by parcel, and it shows that parcel means something other than commercial, it's other than commercial. It's rural.
On this, I don't know if we need to get into the facts too much, but my understanding is that there's no ordinance that we can find that shows that it's changed. From,
I get to the, so
We need to figure all that out before.
I'm simply telling them, if there is ordinances amended in the land use map, and there is a change, and there's been nothing changed in that since then, there was the last one changing it is.
So this was changed under the last council, but the map was not changed.
No, that's not what
No,
was said.
when we adopt an ordinance.
You adopted it, it
No,
happened.
we adopted an eligibility to rezone to commercial, but we did not adopt an ordinance changing the zone, except for this in December on that particular parcel.
Right. It was-
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I just.
It was rezoned, and I'm saying, so the map should have reflected so that this never happened tonight. In my opinion.
Well, they're trying to rescind that portion
Yes.
of that aspect of it.
Yeah, and we need to know that whole everything before our district moves on.
Yes, exactly.
And my point is, if Paul's point, if it was already commercial, what is the effect of an ordinance that rezones it commercial?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that is going to be planning commission for a hearing, and we're going to be doing some research. I've already got a spreadsheet here with all the ordinances, doing, zone changes from I'll tell you what we found, because we went through all the ordinances from 1929 to the present. And, the first zone change in town happened in 1995. So before that, there were no zone changes.
Well, because I don't think they had adopted
A
a
zone.
zoning and land
Yes.
use scheme, because Ludlow was adopted and required every city or town to adopt a zoning ordinance and an official zoning map, and then it
Well,
described the process that all cities had to go through, and so in '94, they adopted that.
yeah, in
And the first zone
94, they
change started
adopted their
coming-
first zoning map,
coming
and
along.
then Ledma, I believe, I thought Ledma was like 2005. After that,
There was an early-
City of Keno decision, the Supreme Court decision, is that what it was? That
Well,
was the one that
Yes.
wrote Ledma? So,
there was a version of. Ludlow, as we know it, was in 2006, there was an earlier version that. It was still referred to as Ludlow, but not the new one.
all right. Lee, you may say what you want to say, and then we're moving on to the next
Okay,
item. on the
I just
agenda.
want to say that in some year when I was on council, I think it was 2013, we went through a very meticulous process of
We should
going
go
to
into
the entire zoning map. And then we sent notice to every person in town with a picture of the map. And we followed the code very meticulously to make sure that that was, from that point on, the correct zoning map. And we also told people, you know, if you don't agree with this, if this doesn't match what you think or whatever, come to the hearings and come and talk about it and we'll fix it. But that was to the, you know.
Yeah, he mentioned that we adopted a zoning map in
I was saying, I worked on that for
I know.
months and months. and-
I was on town council with you at the
Okay.
time, and I was part of it.
All right, so that map is official. You don't need to go back to the town. That's all I'm saying. That's the cutoff. We made an error somehow, which I don't think we did. Nothing before that matters. But we gotta find a copy of that picture of the map.
We've been looking.
I probably have.
That would be great if we can find, all we could find, I had Darcy pull every zoning map she could find, she got two, one from 2000 and one from 2011.
It must be that true.
Okay, so item 8 on the agenda is a discussion of Ash Street. Do we need to discuss that in, or can we just move on and swear in our? Hold on, just a minute, April, just stop. Okay. I have absolutely no idea what you just said. You need to fix what? The name. Change the name. You told me that. I need to go back and do. Okay.
Yeah.
We will have a 5-minute recess. They're gonna come back and swear in our planning visitors finally. Thank you. Make it fast.
Is this?
And I was trying to, I was trying to. Because regardless, wants to see, you know, Darlene gets sworn in or something.
I'm watching.
Sending that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, well, here's, so. Yes. Just first. They're called first. I thought, I think it's not better. Oh, I was thinking that town council. And I guess. Well, let's just see what it was.
So I think.
Oh, I didn't know. Free crazy. Oh.
I was just teasing Leroy about.
Yeah, you should have jumped up to like some of this.
Not trustworthy at all. Well, that. How are you going on this?
I'm thinking, I'm this weekend. I think swear to the like he's like this very much. And I do their stuff like shit. Not pretty good without so.
That's not.
Yes, they're all here. Because Bronwyn and Jim, where'd Ken go? Hey, Mark, where's he? Oh, here. Oh, I mean, he read this and give it back to you this one. We did. This is the zoning map 13. Now we did. Whereas it's been about. So, are you planning? And so we all. That's. Right. So they're. Started this whole thing with all this differences.
Yeah.
That one, I know my always up the word. I was factoring my soul when I'm weird. We found, yeah, now, only the town, we hold for a long time. And, then we were out of their. They got us in the neighborhood stuff. I even see it down now, it's not to us down, and I don't have anyone else that will have your point, someone has another question, we're talking about 2019. Oh, okay. We're talking about postcard, you probably have.
There was a postcard done.
They did a new whole zone map.
Well, so when
I don't remember getting a notice of that. Property. I'm sorry. But, I mean, when we did it, Senator, respect this. If you disagree with any part of it.
Yeah, so people, anyway, so.
Yeah. I do have a.
As a phosphorus. It's an ordinance with.
Do anyway. Yes, there are.
And so I thought, and this would then grow, I'm trying to think when I started. It would have been very early. And I don't know if I was attending all the meetings. So I'm taught. Yeah, 2 4 meetings, and everything was controversial. No, so I've advised the mayor, even if you found the map that you spent so much time on, because I told her, I don't think. So there's, so I'm hoping that 2019.
Yeah.
You don't want me, you don't want me doing this research. You have staff research and then get to me everything and I'll give it.
Yeah. I'm finding a map. Oh, I totally understood. Well, in 2019, when happened, Marcy, we will. Come back with your break, let's do this over. Take a seat, please. I know. Okay, so so April, you were in the middle of trying to make a comment. Do you still want to make a comment? Because so many people left.
I'll make a brief. So I have really thought about the Ash Creek Special Service District, joining them and whatnot. And I want everybody to take the opportunity to read the Virgin Town Wastewater Study 2022 update. There's some really interesting information. It's all scientific based, engineered. There's just some information about it, about what our growth rate would be and what it's going to take to reach the 5 milligram per liter nitrogen groundwater threshold. It talks about if the current growth rate, if we do nothing, if nothing changes, that 5 milligram per liter would be met in 2035. Year 2035. The 90% nitrogen removal, a new commercial is kept in place, then that 5 milligram per liter would be met in 2045. And then it goes on to say that the risk for groundwater contamination is greater for groundwater than for surface water. I heard someone say tonight that the surface water would be greatly impacted by the nitrate levels, but it's actually the engineering study says that it's not as significant. And because we don't have groundwater in Virgin that we use for drinking, it kind of leads to the fact that there's not that much risk for contamination on kind of drinking or surface water. And then it talks about that we would be allowed to add an additional 562 residential connections. And that's equivalent residential units is how they base kind of wastewater values, or 527 commercial, but that would be 26 additional commercial users projects that are similar to the size that we have. So then it goes on to talk about build out availability. And currently we have 399 residential. The current zoning that we have, you have 2,004 units of residential, but only 35 more units of commercial. So in bottom line, I guess, is that with our build out and the amount of properties that we have currently and the amount that we could build out to, there's not that, it's not that, the effect of that does not really lead us to necessarily have a sewer system, is the bottom line. And it also, their final recommendation in the study is that we should pursue the installation of a sewer collection system and regional treatment system. that's what they came up with, despite some of this information. It said this will end nitrogen loading and reduce health risks. But the main thing was it prevents the need to install expensive on-site treatment options. And that would basically be for commercial, and if we get to, smaller lot sizes for residential. So I would just encourage everybody to read that, and also there's a draft map.
Yeah, give us the title again, please. Oh, it's the wastewater study, just tell me what the wastewater study in Sunrise.
The 2022 update.
We got it last year.
And
where do you?
It's in the office.
You check,
Is it online?
it's on, I have not put it on the town website, just asking for a copy, I'll send it to you. Okay. It's on my computer right now, it's right now.
So the other thing, people were asking about a draft map for the sewer system, and they do have a draft map. I don't know really, like, it's just what Sunrise Engineering came up with. I don't know that they did.
It's very conceptual.
It's very conceptual, it's a draft. And so,
But the problem with the wastewater system that they proposed is we'll never do it. It cost $24 million. And we're never gonna do that.
right. I
And
understand
meanwhile, if Ash Creek was saying that if they bring sewer to us, they were talking $8 million. So why would we go do a $24 million system if Ash Creek's gonna bring it to us for 8? I mean, it would make no sense.
So I think
it's
it's
crazy.
what they're talking about might be different.
Yes, they're talking about us doing our own sewer system. Yeah. And
So
then,
it's just really interesting information if you want to educate yourself about it.
so meanwhile, we're doing a groundwater protection study that's gonna take all of 2024. It's gonna take a year for that to get done, and that's gonna tell us if we're polluting the groundwater. And if we are, then the state, and we verified with a meeting with Ash Creek, that if the town says, no, we won't join Ash Creek. And if the groundwater protection study comes and shows that we are polluting the groundwater, can the state come in and force us? And they said, yes. And so,
So then they would subsidize the whole project and everybody that has to hook up to the sewer system, all residents.
well, okay.
There's
All right.
one thing I would like to share, when I talked to Frank Linhart, he told me that in Apple Valley, they had adopted a groundwater protection study. And that even though they had that and they adopted it by ordinance, that the good people of their council and their mayor and their planning commission chose not to consider that when they approved large developments, thousands of lots in these developments.
And they would want to have lots that did not comply with groundwater protection.
And they are on wells, so they get their water from the ground. It's a little bit different from that situation, but when they add, now Ash Creek is the servicing entity and they are ensuring that that groundwater, protection study is being adhered to. And it will carry on throughout council, future councils, future mayors.
Correct, that's one of my concerns, is that if all we do is amend our town ordinance to say, we're going to do, we require this, then the next mayor comes along and just says, we don't want that, and gets the planning commission to recommend, and they remove it. And if we join Ash Creek, then we've got somebody, they can't go against what Ash Creek does, because Ash Creek's gonna say, no, you're polluting groundwater, and you have to do this, or whatever it is. But the one thing that everybody, the bulk of the comments that were made tonight about Ash Creek is everybody's going on and on about sewer, cost, can't afford it. And annexing into Ash Creek does not mean we're going to get sewer. It is a separate vote by a separate council. Annexing into Ash Creek gives them the right to oversee quite a few things that happen with regard to septic systems and groundwater protection in Virgin. But if we want to have sewer, that is a separate vote by the town council to say, oh, by the way, Ash Creek, we now want to do sewer. And as I showed, the guy, Mike from Ash Creek said that if we were to start tomorrow and tell them tomorrow, hey, we vote, we want sewer, we won't get it before 2030. And that's if we were to vote tomorrow. And it's like, we're talking 10 to 20 years away before we would ever have sewer. So it's like, everybody's focused on something that's not what's going to happen. We're talking about annexing. Yes, please.
We're, like April's comments are all good, and I appreciate the analysis of the wastewater study. And I think you're spot on with what that wastewater study says. And I don't know that necessarily the need to join the sewer district and have a sewer system be brought up here and built out throughout the town is necessary immediately or anything like that. What I think is more driving this is that we are much more rapidly running out of water in this town. And we have no way to backstop that. No way, because we're such a small municipality, we cannot compete on the open market and buy water rights that either have the point of diversion in this valley or capable of having it changed to this area. Because every municipal customer or canal company will outbid us. And so where do we get water when we run out of our water connections? And our water is based off of a contract, and we only have a limited number, and we have used a chunk of it, and we have approved existing developments that we have to say those are going to be used. And so we have a number that is quickly, and every time we're adopting your next little set of wagons or teepees or whatever we're approving, those are equivalent residential units, and our water is running out. And so what are we gonna be the council that doesn't deal with the water issue now? And they are looking at adopting an amended regional water supply agreement. And once that is adopted, it is no longer the board, the Conservancy District board, who gets to choose who joins. It is all the municipalities. And do you think they know that the Conservancy District, the likelihood of the Lake Powell pipeline is
Slim to none.
Slim to none. And so they're looking at all sorts of projects to develop more water, to reuse water, recycle water. I mean, desalinate water. And things like that to have water as this county grows. And do you think that those big municipal customers who have a right to buy the district's water from them wholesale is going to allow another municipality to come in and buy and take away from their pipe? They're not. The big boys are not going to vote for it. And so we're going to be out in the cold and we're not going to have any water. And maybe that's something that everybody in this town wants because they want no growth. I get that. But there are plenty of people in this town who have land who want to do something with their land. If it's simply just making some smaller lots for their 1 acre lots or whatever, for their kids to buy or anything like that. And we're not gonna have any water to give to them. And the district, we've gone and made a presentation, me and the mayor, asking to join before this amendment takes place. And the board has voted on it and approved our joinder, subject to us joining Ash Creek.
And if we don't join Ash Creek, we will not get into the regional water supply agreement with the water
So
conservancy.
we have a limited window and everyone keeps saying, what's the hurry? And I'm saying, it's not sewer. It's not water.
My question with that contract, with the Conservancy, it says, can we make that condition precedence of joining? So they agreed to let us in, but we're in only at the time we adopt or annex into.
No,
Ash
after,
Creek. So, just a minute, so in other words, we don't have to make that decision on annexation. We're in agreement that we want to belong to your pool, but we don't get in until we actually do the annexation. What
The
we
way
want
that
to
we
do
would join the regional water supply agreement before it gets amended is by an addendum. They've done this with a couple other municipalities. And the addendum has already been drafted and prepared. I've seen a copy of it. And they're wanting us to join, and they'll allow for a time period for us to join, but it is not open-ended. We can't say you can join the pooling agreement
But it's not, and it's open-ended, and it's not effective until you join Ash
That's
Creek.
what I was asking.
No.
Okay, so
There's a date certain, so we have to face this within the next 2 years.
and then the other thing is, when I went and, so you and I went to the board. And then I went on my own to, the advisory council. And when I was presenting to the advisory council, and one of their questions was, well, what are you going to bring to the table? Which you and I talked about that as a joke, but, we were talking about what is the value of the water connections that we presently have, which is important to them.
Yeah.
And then if we are frittering away all our water connections over time, by the time we go back, it's like, oh, yes, so when I talked to you advisory council, I told you it was $3 million, now it's 1.5, or the value has decreased by half.
Things that we have to commit these contractual water rights to projects, if we keep approving projects.
Yes.
At the rate.
Which is what's been going, yes, Karen.
So, you're talking about what you bring to the table, I want to bring this up before I forgot, because I forget things quite often. Another thing that Virgin can bring to the table is because of really the good governance of whoever wrote that agreement in '94, and I don't know who it was. We also own our, reuse water from those shares under that agreement.
That's one of the only keeps of the great value, because what they asked is, if you're telling us we have to give up our remaining connections under the 97 agreement, to join an agreement, you're taking away these are essentially contract water rights. We're giving them to you. You can use that water in the pool as a whole, not necessarily have it earmarked and committed to the town. And they said, okay, what water rights did you give the district in order to get 1,000 connections in the first place? We went back and researched and had very little to tell them what was given. In fact, the district paid off a bunch of the town's debt and said you could have 1,000 connections. And we didn't really give them any water rights at the time when we entered into that 97, it was a 97 agreement. Sorry, no, that's fine. But we do have the right to use, just like Tocqueville is gonna take water that's been reused and treated down at the Confluence Park facility, and they're gonna pump it all the way back up to Tocqueville and use it. Now, they can't use it as potable culinary water, but it's less than, they can put it into their irrigation system. So there is a benefit to this reuse water, and so that's one of the only things we're being able to offer them, to say, let us join.
So in order for them to, for us, we'd have to be able to give them water to reuse, and that would.
Well, everything that's flowing down through a septic system, down to
Yeah.
Confluence, is gonna get treated, and they can use that water. Right now, under our 97 agreement, we have the right, if we had a mechanism, a system to pump it back up here, we could reuse it. We could reuse it and sell it to someone as irrigation water, we can use it on our parks, whatever, but we don't even have that.
That's what I'm saying, we're not.
So we've offered that up as a negotiating chip to consider waiving those and giving those reuse rights to the district as some consideration for letting us join. But whether we think what we're doing right now is contaminating or will in the future contaminate groundwater or surface water, the Conservancy District is all uberly concerned over it, because that Virgin River is one of their major supplies of water here. And whether we think we're contaminating it, and they've even agreed to participate in a new study to look at this even more closely and in detail. But they say, we don't really care what your studies say. We don't want
More
town-
septic.
We don't want a town participating in our pooling agreement where they're all on septic and it's right next to the Virgin River. If you want to be part of the pooling district and have a backstop, have a place where you're guaranteed to be able to come by water with the same rights as the big boys.
So they're guaranteeing that, and we'll have the same.
The regional water supply agreement basically guarantees everybody the right to buy, subject to any, drought or scarcity provisions
But this new version, once, if we get in and the new version gets adopted, the cities are making the district come up with some very specific objective criteria on when they can start curtailing any of the municipalities' rights to buy water from the district. They can't say, it used to be that Ron Thompson could say, I think we have a drought in the area. We're gonna cut back everybody's right to buy water from us by 40%. And the cities would have to say, well, we agreed to that under the current regional water supply agreement. Under the new one that's coming, if we can get in and be a signatory to the amended version, it's gonna say that there are very specific things have to happen in order for the district to say, there's a drought happening, we're gonna, and it says what they do, and several steps have to be met before they actually start curtailing the ability to purchase water. So, I mean, I can't think of a way that we can buy water, develop a system like a pump house, distribution lines to get it into our water storage tanks, and buy water at the rate these guys are buying water at, in any way closely economical or related to what you can buy at wholesale for. It's gonna be cheaper than what we're getting at, or it's gonna be, we thought it was gonna be considerably more expensive, and when they ran the math to us, it actually might be less than what we're doing right now.
Okay, hold on, Bronwyn has something first, she's been waving her hand for quite a while. Yes, Bron.
I guess I just wanted to point out. So nationally, globally, everywhere, there's a push to consolidate water. That's a thing, okay? I just think we need to consider, I'll point the counterpoint to your argument, which is, you know, they're not gonna let us in, like, is that false? Is that sort of like, okay, I feel like it's a little bit of a sale, because number one, if we are a place where our impact on the soil and the surrounding area is impacting everyone else's water so much, there's no way they're not gonna wanna pull us in at a certain point if, say, a water.
And that's right now, the district wants us to come in.
Of course they do. We're one of the few places that still
But
have the
I agree with you, they've been circulating drafts of the amended regional water supply agreement, I've been reviewing it for Tokerville. And it clearly says joinder into the agreement in this new version is not the district's decision anymore. It's by a vote of the members of the pool.
I hear you.
So-
But I
And so when
just-
that happens, we're gonna, I mean, we sat there and heard the mayor of Ivan say to us, why should we let you, he's on the board, he's on the district's board, and says, why should we let you in? What are you giving to us?
And you're telling me that it's gonna be a situation where if they need control of, say, the contamination level, or just the consolidation of water generally, they're not gonna let someone in later. I think, I think this is development driven, and I think that's something we really need to think about. I mean, every reason I've heard is like, well, you know, we're not, because we've squandered all of our water to development. We better make sure we have more water that can be used by developers. I think we just gotta slow down a minute and think about, you know, what's the sell? What's the future, and what are the real
The problem that happened with the commercial taking so much water is our town code said that any commercial development had to bring their own water, so that those 1,000 water connections were reserved for us.
Yes.
And then that got changed in the past.
Which is awful. And I guess the overall picture for me is, I come from California, of course, where water is a huge deal. And where every city, every place, the big lament is we gave up our rights to a conglomerate. We gave them up, and otherwise, and the cities and the places that didn't are the ones that have stability. And I mean, it is like gold. So I just wanna make sure, I don't know what the right thing to do is, I just know we don't wanna get sold, we don't wanna get pulled into by like peer pressure or this push to consolidate, because do we know where it's coming from, etc.
Okay, Darlene.
So I need some clarification. So I heard that joining Ash Creek
annexing Ash Creek doesn't mean sewer.
Correct.
But in order to do that, we must also join the pool.
No, backwards.
No.
To join the pooling agreement so that we have access to more water. We
It is
have to
a-
join Ash Creek.
It is a condition.
And that's, okay, so I get that, so here's the deal. So you can just join,
We can annex into Ash Creek and not join the water supply agreement, we can do that.
It sounded like if we join the pooling agreement, they're going to require that we go to sewer.
And we have to do it before.
And when they, when their board
But is
voted,
that true or false?
that's true, when their board voted to allow the town to join the regional water supply agreement, and the actual draft, and joining us to the agreement, it says we have to join. It, and we advocated that we had to come up with a sewer solution, they didn't like that generality, they said, your sewer solution is going to be
Ash Creek. And then when I went to the advisory council, which is all the mayors, and had a meeting with all the mayors and the county commissioners, they said the same thing. Join Ash Creek, we'll let you in. Until you join Ash Creek, you're not coming in.
I think those options need to be communicated to the general public.
Well, but
Or
during the public comment period, we're supposed to let everybody comment, we're not supposed to be coming back with retorts. So I sat here and listened tonight, I heard tonight, wow, everyone is talking about, we don't need a sewer solution, and they're all talking about this, and I'm thinking, yeah, but this isn't so much about water, or isn't so much about sewer, as it is about water. And when you say, I know a lot of people own a single lot in a platted subdivision, it doesn't matter, but there are a lot of people, a lot of residents in this town who own land that is much bigger than 1 acre. And they're not gonna be able to do anything besides have pasture land and have the same rights as anybody else if there's not water to do it. And so we're trying to balance, I think, you know, property rights, rights of existing lot owners, and their interests and everything like that, and we're just trying to, as a council, they have to look at, are we gonna be the council who didn't take advantage of the opportunity to truly, the easiest way to get an additional backstop of water?
But how can you even allow public comment if the options weren't clearly presented? Is my question. And
We
second,
did mention that.
They were mentioned, they were not clearly delineated. How do we get discussions like this? This is what we need.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but when we go through, look how many people left. When we had on the agenda that we were gonna discuss this, and people left.
And
It's
then
like you guys are all just left.
the second question for the council is, how can you assure the citizens that growth will not be rampant and unlimited? If we do those two things.
According to both the people I've spoken with at the Water Conservancy District and mine at the Ash Creek, there is nothing that says, oh, we joined Ash Creek, therefore we're 1/4 acre lots. We can still have 1 acre lots. We can still have 2 acre lots if we want. It's up to the zoning that we
We're the
come up
land
with.
use.
We are the land use authority, and we can say, we can stay with 1 acre lots. Nothing says, oh, you're in Ash Creek, therefore you're 1/4 acre lots. But until somebody else comes in, exactly.
But even staying at 1 acre, that study said that there could be, at 1 acre, we could have about 2,000
Well,
1 acre lots.
yeah, but what the wastewater study did, what they did is they just looked at our boundaries and said, oh, you've got this many square acres or square miles, and so therefore you can, at 1 acre lots, you can go with, this many homes. I'm like, do you know how much land in our town is not buildable, that you cannot have that?
I thought they subtracted areas of.
Did you see that?
They did the build out
Okay.
consideration.
Yeah, they did build out, they
But-
subtracted areas of slope
But
gradient.
they did nothing in the way of what the groundwater protection study is gonna do, they didn't do any of that. But I've been told, and I think it was Mike at Ash Creek who was telling us when we had our meeting, that, Virgin's not the only one that the state, it's not just the Water Conservancy District in Ash Creek that is concerned about Virgin, it's the state. And the state is watching us, and the state's concerned about Springdale, Rockville, Virgin. all of us on the, up here. And so Springdale is getting money for a brand new sewer system. They're going to redo their sewer system. And one of the things we talked about is what's gonna happen with Rockville, because they're all septic and it's too much money for Ash Creek to go all the way to Rockville. So probably what's gonna happen is they're gonna try to figure out how to incorporate Rockville into that sewer system in Springdale. And go that way instead of this way, and we will go that way. And that way they get everybody out of polluting the.
Another point
And
Chris, that I heard tonight is that we won't own the sewer system. Ash Creek owns the sewer system. They will go out and bond for it, not the city. They'll
get the grants.
bear all the burden and liability of making the bond payments annually to build the systems to come up here, but they're only gonna do it when they know that the city wants it. Other than that, when we join them, the only thing that they're gonna be is acting as the body politic for these developments that are trying to do these compact, non-traditional sewer systems,
On-site wastewater
yeah,
system.
yep.
So, and then will anyone who, like I am hundreds of feet from the street where my septic is, probably close to 200. And that would be a significant cost.
And everybody's gonna be different, depending on the location of their
Let me
sewer.
finish my question. I'm also below street level. So that, if that is a burdensome, and I'm just using me because I'm in my situation. But I know there's many who face similar situation. Do I have the option of not?
Yeah.
Yes, because we've discussed with Ash Creek, let people utilize the useful life of their septic system. And when it's-
Until it fails.
What?
Yes.
Until it fails, once it's failed, and you're gonna have to spend a big chunk of money to replace it.
Well, it'll be
Instead
less
of,
than.
instead of spending the money to replace it, you spend the money to connect. And they're in agreement with that.
Hold on, Deb. Hold on, I had a thought, but I want to
Sorry.
respond to Darlene, and I lost my train of thought.
He was talking about whether she would have to.
Oh, yes, so today I spoke with the mayor of Tokerville and the mayor of Hurricane while I was at my meeting this at noon at D10. And according to the mayor of Tokerville, they've got plenty of lots in town that he said that they joined sewer, it was before his time even being in Tokerville. And he said there's lots that still are on septic. And he said they have new subdivisions going in that are on septic. They are not on sewer, even though Tokerville has sewer.
Because they can't, the district can't afford to put a trunk line up to the new subdivision. So they're letting them come in, they have to put a dry sewer throughout the subdivision itself, but it doesn't connect to anything, and it actually, their actual physical connection with the septic is on their lots.
And so then, and then the mayor of Hurricane told me that they bought their house, and Hurricane's been on sewer for, I don't know how long. But she said they bought their house 21 years ago and they're still on septic.
Well, I just, as a resident who's been faithfully watching, attending, reading, I'm telling you.
This isn't coming across?
It is not clear.
Okay, all right. Yes, Cameron.
So another thing that the town could consider, and I believe Hurricane did this at one time too, is for residents that had to hook up, they offered financial
Assistance?
assistance to many of their residents to help them work on this sewer.
Well, one of the things too that I'll call on you in just a second, Deb. Okay, one of the things that the planning commission, I want you guys to work on too is, and this was a recommendation from Mike at Ash Creek, is that we require all new subdivisions to have the dry sewer you were talking about.
So you literally just connect the trunk line to the line coming out of the subdivision.
And all new homes that are built, we also need to require that the septic be in the front. In the front or on the side, so that there's not a long distance to connect.
And the grading of the elevation of,
Yeah, and all that's gonna need to
Well,
go.
if we join
Planning
Ash
commission
Creek,
gonna
we'll
have to
actually
go.
have them review subdivision plats. They'll be part of the DRC, and they'll say, no, because we won't approve and sign off on this plat because the septic tanks are in the front, or they're at a level that's below the grade of where our line, the dry line shows in the, so there's some benefit in that sense, having Ash Creek doing the technical reviews of our new subdivisions and stuff like that.
But first we have to get the regulations in place.
Yeah, we have to adopt basically, as part of our standards and specifications, we have to adopt basically Ash Creek's standards and specifications as it relates to sewer.
And then require people to put it in a dry sewer. Okay, any more you guys want to talk about Ash Creek, or can we swear in our view? So. Who's that till, Kim?
I was leaving German with you.
Okay, well, we gotta hear from our people first, but Lee has a comment.
I know, I have a question.
Question.
Larry has a question.
Okay.
For Heath, I guess, because you just said that, a while ago, that we better make a decision within 2 years. Now that.
Well,
Not 2 years,
if we agree to sign the addendum and join the water pooling agreement, we basically are saying within 2 years, we have to, because right in the addendum, it says we have to do it. They'll allow us to go through a process and negotiate whatever things we want to try to negotiate with that during our joint period. But they're not gonna allow us to defer it out.
I don't think it means we have 2 years before we.
No, we don't have
say,
to have.
we don't have
we
2 years.
Oh, no, I wondered if we have 2 years before, the new regional water supply agreement was.
No, we got about 5 months.
The bottom line is if we join the water agreement, we have to say, yes, we will join Ash Creek.
Right.
So that's
Well,
the,
I don't
once
think
we
it's-
sign that, that's the bottom line.
I don't think it's just, yes, we will join Ash Creek, it's that we have to start the process.
Well, that's what he's saying, is that there's a time limit once we say yes, but it has to
Because
happen
Ash
once
Creek
we-
said that once we start the process,
And frankly.
it'll take about 6 months before we're actually in.
And frankly, if we sign the addendum and join the regional water supply agreement and deal with our water, we take away all negotiating leverage we have with Ash Creek. If we wanna say something, if we wanna negotiate something special for the town that they don't allow for their other towns that they service, they're gonna say, you've already agreed to join us, why do we have to give you any concessions?
Okay.
So we need to negotiate our best deal with Ash Creek, sign this addendum, and we need to do it.
Really soon.
I'm not trying to say we have to, but water is such a regional thing. Do we have enough water even from drainage in this area? If we caught all of it and stored it right here and distributed it out, would we have enough for this town in full build-out? No. I mean, we have to get water from other areas, and we basically have to be, water storage and the things that the district are doing, they own water rights up on Cedar Mountain. They're bringing lines down, they're building new reservoir in Tocqueville. They're doing all sorts of things. They are much better equipped to deal with water on a regional basis. I understand we become somewhat beholden to them. But it's really not a bad thing, because being beholden to them says we have to adopt some landscape standards so that we're not
Wasting water.
flooded, we're not irrigating big pastures of grass and stuff like that around our houses.
Okay. Larry had a question?
So I heard tonight that joining Ash Creek doesn't have to go to sewer.
Right.
So what triggers having to have sewer? Is it
Well,
bad country?
So if we joined Ash Creek, the only thing that they would be doing right now is that they would be going and inspecting and supervising these little package plants. The one that's been done at White Bison, the one that would be done in this sign and this landing that Justin just got an extension on, things like that. What the district has told us is we will start planning, we'll put it in our capital facilities plan as a project to build a trunk line up here and to build some trunk lines throughout the town. That might be in our 10 to 15 year portion of our capital facilities plan. If you were to come to us earlier than that, we might move that project up and go and start finding funding, grants, loans, however, and we could probably make that happen sooner. But we have to know that you want it. We're not gonna just bring it and drop it on you guys. and we're willing to allow you to kind of, Cameron referred to a buffering time period. There is going to be a buffering time period. People have new developments that are within that many, new subdivisions would have to connect to it. Any home that has a failure of their existing system, then would be the time to do it. You can use up the entire useful life of your septic system. The problem is that in state law, it says that any public funds or state funds that are given to municipalities, whether it be a special service district or a city or a town, for the purpose of financing sewer, there has to be a requirement that any home within 300 feet has to connect to the improvements built. Now, it's been very ambiguous, and the Conservancy District, the Ash Creek and other sewer districts have worked with the state to say, okay, that connection requirement can be done over time. And when you can set limits, it just has to say you have to connect at certain trigger points, and that can be when your septic tank fails and things like that. And so that's what Ash Creek's offered to us. They can comply with state law, they can go out with funding to bring something up here and still comply with state requirement, but they're giving us that buffer.
Prior to any talk about starting to work on a sewer up there, are there baseline costs to be in?
Well, we know and whether this is reality or not, but White Bison has come and said, we would like to take some of our property and put it into a public infrastructure district and borrow against our property to fund a big portion to at least bring the trunk line up here. And that would expedite the process, and that would be paid by private development. At no cost to us, and that would be half the cost, then we're just building out throughout town, so.
But I'm talking about other costs not to do with the sewer.
Like what?
Because
Monthly
they're,
fees.
yeah, monthly fees.
They said right now it's $30 a month. $30 a month right now is their monthly fee.
So, and that's for everybody?
A household.
Per
Per household. Yes.
I mean, they don't meter the amount of affluent that comes out of your household, it's flat fee, every house, $30.
But that's right now. I mean, we're talking
They couldn't
10 to 15 years before who knows what the fee will be then.
Before any sewer even.
No, the sewer's here.
No.
Only
I'm
once.
asking about before.
No, before sewer's here, no fee.
No cost, no fee, no cost, doesn't cost us a penny.
But they come and inspect, they just charge
Yes.
the landowners?
Yes.
Yeah. To be a body pocket, they do charge a monthly inspection fee to Zion Wi-Fi.
And I asked Frank Linhart, and I asked Valley, what does it cost you guys? And they're like, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. Cost them nothing.
So I know there's a hookup fee.
If you bring sewer and you're hooking up to sewer, we're talking about right now. We're talking about before bringing sewer, is there any cost? And the answer is no.
Once that trunk line up,
Yes.
Once the trunk line is there and your existing septic tank is filled, then you're going to incur the cost of making the physical connection to the feet. How many feet down, whatever it is, putting a pump on here to bring it, to pressurize it up to the trunk line. All those things, that's when you have to expend that cost. Once it's here, Mayor, was there a discussion of a standby fee once?
yep,
Yes, there was, and I don't remember, I have to go back and look
I
at
think
it.
it's something half or less than the $30 that.
gotta be.
Oh, it is, because they're not treating, you're not putting in any additional.
Because these are the things that need to be clearly like a chart.
Well, they have told us, I just don't remember exactly, we asked that question to them when Mike Chandler came. And he did say, yes, once the sewer system is here, whether you choose to connect.
Oh, yes,
you
yes,
have
there's
to
a standby
reserve
fee.
capacity in our system to treat your affluent, so there would be a standby fee. It wouldn't be the full amount, and I can't remember what he said, but he.
And it was somewhere around the $30 or something. I put it in the equivalent to what the monthly fee was. But meanwhile, the thing is, as Tokerville and Hurricane both were saying, They haven't even brought sewer to some parts of their town.
Yeah.
And so our first, if we say, yes, let's bring sewer to Virgin, and we tell them, say, 5 years from now, we say, yeah, we're ready.
And the sewer
And it
district
takes
is the
10
experts.
years
They
from
say
then.
it's gonna cost $2 million to put a pump station here to get all the affluent up over a hill and into our main trunk line flowing down to Confluence. City said, you know what? We don't have the money and the ability to do that right now. If you wanna approve a subdivision up there, you can approve it with septics. But they just have to dry sewer the subdivision.
So what they told me is, what they told us when we had one of our meetings is the first thing they would do is just bring a trunk line in, up Highway 9 and stop at Zion Wi-Fi's. Then 5 years later, they might extend it on down to the 101. And 5 years after that, they might extend it, up Pocketville Road. But it is going to be,
On an as-needed basis, and it's gonna be as negotiated. Sometimes the request is gonna come from a developer, and Ashby's gonna say to them, how much are you gonna contribute?
The reserve fee starts when? For me.
whenever we make arrangement, whenever it comes up by your house.
Okay, so it's up to my frontage, and then I gotta put.
That's my understanding, it's only when it comes up to you.
Within this,
Yes, within the 300 feet.
But if I have septic, it's still working, do I have to pay that reserve fee?
Yes, when we have the system for your house.
When the system is brought in front of your house, whether you connect or not, you're paying that other fee. But according to them, there's plenty, this is years and years and years from now before it's ever gonna get up by you. And I think it's gonna be years before it ever gets over by Rio to Zion, and who knows, it's not going to be, even Springdale with their own, sewer system, they.
For instance, Stu Ferber says, I want to do another hotel next to Matterhorn. Maybe he says, I'll spend on it, I'll give the district a big chunk of money to extend that line up there. It could get up there sooner than later if natural economics and private development wants to pay for it.
So, hopefully he just stepped out to go to the restroom because we're about ready to close this topic down. I'm so done with this topic.
I do have a question, and I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. We're all right to create a sinking fund where we can start to sock away money to help citizens pay for the connection fee and help offset the costs of doing so.
So, we are about, so Crystal, are you ready with this stuff? You were gonna print off something new?
ready to go.
Okay, well, Larry stepped out for a minute, so hopefully we can just. Larry, did he start walking in and go, what? So hopefully he just ran to the restroom.
That's it.
Okay, all right, yeah, we'll be back in a sec.
But it's gonna take a long way around.
Yeah, I know. Maybe go out and track it down and say, get in here, come in the back here. What? What need what? And you no, you need them. Okay, here we are, guys. That's what I want. Come on, you guys, we're ready for some. Oh, yeah. All right, and then I'll just get this with you, John, study with my gun and something. And different maps. You come over here, because you're standing right in front of the camera, camera's still on. Camera's still on.
Not the space.
Okay, I'll stand.
Are we all here now?
Yeah.
Can you do it all at once? Do it however you want.
Really? Listen, I've worked over 12 hours, you can stay here for 5. Okay. Larry, come on up. Okay, we're gonna do it right, so when I say swear or affirm, you either swear or affirm.
Okay.
So you get to choose, you either are going to swear or affirm. Okay. So when I'm gonna say swear or affirm, you say, I swear, you don't have to make it, okay? Lawrence Craig, right? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay, raise your right hand. Not bad, I had to look to see what my hand was. Okay. Repeat after me. I, Lawrence McCray,
I, Lawrence McCray,
have been appointed to the office of Planning and Zoning Commission.
have been appointed to the office of Planning and Zoning Commission.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Oh. That I will support, obey, and defend
I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of the state,
and the United States of America,
the United States of America.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
All right.
Yeah, I might have to go first and screw it up.
I
I know.
You're just repeating words. Sign and date. I know it's late. All right. Up next is Valerie. Okay, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Valerie.
I, Valerie,
Have been appointed to the office of Planning and Zoning Commission.
I have been appointed to the
Office.
office of planning and zoning commission.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly affirm.
that I will support, obey, and defend
Support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the state
the Constitution of the state
and the United States of America,
and the United States of America.
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
And I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
All right, we're sworn in for.
Ready?
Yeah. And she is that. And Riley.
All right, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Darlene Pope. I, Darlene Pope. Have been appointed to the office of Planning and Zoning Commission. Have been appointed to the office of Planning and Zoning Commission. Do solemnly swear or affirm. Do solemnly affirm. That I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the state. That I will support, defend, and affirm the Constitution of the United States. Let's do this again. I will support, obey, and defend. I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the state. And the United States of America. And the United States of America. And that I will discharge the duties. And I will discharge the duties. Of my office with fidelity. Of my office with fidelity. Perfect. Sworn in. And she is sworn in. No. Planning and zoning members. It is the 13th next month. Yes. 13th of February. Yeah, 13th.
I asked.
No. Yes, yeah. Let's adjourn, and then you guys will get it. Hey, motion to adjourn, somebody give you motion to adjourn. Second.
No photo.